This is a Dancing Stickman production.
I love a vibes-based conversation.
That's what this is. It's just pure vibes. Welcome to Worldsbuilder.
Yay!
My podcast about the business of creativity / the place where I do wrap-ups. So it's my witches. Hi, witches.
Hey,
witches. There was one thing that I was thinking about that I did think I wanted to say when we started this little wrap-up episode of Oops All Witches. So first off, I just want to talk about what a cool thing you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Ash and Andy, you two are not professional performers in the way that Annette is. And so for you two to agree to come on and be recorded is like a really big deal. And Annette, you are a professional performer, but you weren't doing APs prior to this, were you? Like you play D&D, but you weren't doing performance-based Dungeons and Dragons?
No, I mean, that would have been hella cool if I was, but sadly, no.
But so, like, for you guys to come in and do that was rad. And also, you were my first players for my first project published by Dancing Stickman, which I have been thinking about for years, but I'm now finally actually trying to get off the ground. So I'm forever grateful for that. But then we were playing a D&D class that was homebrew and had not existed prior, and literally the only other person who had ever performed the class on an actual play was the person for whom it was made. Mm-hmm. So it's like it was Erika Ishii, and then it was you guys, which is rad. And then because I'm a maniac, jumped you from level 6 to 10 to 14 because we were playtesting and I wanted your class features to kick in. But that's like those are huge power jumps. Mm-hmm. And because your features were kicking in, it's like, wait, here's more for you to comprehend about what it is you're able to do. Mm-hmm. And then for the final fight, I was like, okay, first off, you're all a legendary creature, so you have to learn the legendary creature rules in an hour over lunch before you play. And your shared consciousness, because I did just finish editing these episodes, but it's also split consciousness because this fight is happening on two different planes of reality.
Right.
I threw a lot of game at you guys, and I feel like you really handled it quite well. And I just think you guys did something really cool. I got a comment from somebody on YouTube just recently being like, oh, I've been waiting to hear actual plays using the witch class. And I'm like, well, let me.
Oh, awesome.
So I just think that you guys are awesome and you did a really cool thing and told a great story.
Yeah, I miss our little story time. And it's true, like at least on a game mechanics level, what we did was kind of crazy. And I'm not really a mechanics person, but yeah, I mean, Andy and Ash were amazing.
You were as well, Annette.
Truly.
Thank you.
Truly. I really appreciated, Annette, how you were able to like really embody the character. Like it's something that I play a lot of games and I love a tabletop game, but I'm still never like in the mindset of embodying that person and talking as them. I usually refer to this character in the third person, or I was like, Naya would say this. But so this was my first time doing this, but I really just love how you were like at ease at just like bringing life to your character. Also, Sarah, like how many tabletop like role-playing game experiences have you ran?
I can count the number of total games I've played, whether as a player or a GM, on two hands.
Wow.
See, and this is the thing that I was also curious about. You're like giving us all this accolades, which thank you. But like also I'm like, hold on. Like, every time like at the end of every kind of session, I just remember being like, I think there's so much more world that's here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I should have went down like a different corridor, but I'm also like, I don't want to be that player who's like playing this like a video game being like, pause. In that cave is the boss battle. We should actually go over here, guys.
But let's go explore the nook behind this one column and see if there's anything to find. Yeah, no.
Just in case. You can never know. Check every waterfall.
That was my first time as a dungeon master ever.
Dang. Honestly, I give you all of the laurel leaves because that was your first game, but you were also recording it and it was a whole production. But also too, like, let's also talk about your performance. Like all of the characters you were.
We don't have to.
I think it was amazing. It felt real, and it felt like I was talking to separate, distinct characters, which is a very difficult thing to do.
I really appreciate that. Like, I did go back in and re-record some voices. I re-recorded a bunch of stuff just to make the story a little bit more coherent and to give more character stuff. For me, because I was doing everything, because I had to do all the lore and the mechanics and then DM it and record it and then also edit and publish and all of that sort of stuff. I'm not super pleased with my own performance, but I'm also not like being hard on myself at all, because I'm just like, hey man, like, you know, you can only split your attention in so many different directions before any individual thing you're doing starts to suffer. But for me, like, I think a big goal in terms of doing more actual plays is I want to get better at character work. But I'm glad they were distinct to you. Having listened to them as many times as I have, I'm like, do better voices.
I mean, you can kind of do like what is a Scottish accent?
I know.
It's Irishy, Scottishy.
Listen, even Taliesin Jaffe had a hard time doing an Irish accent for his first character, Molly, in Critical Role, so I give you that.
Did I tell you guys that I've narrated some romance audiobooks?
What?
What?
I have. Yes. One of them was with a Irish male lead, like a dark Irish male lead. And so I had to that was a really interesting experience because I was doing the narrator and him at the same time. And it's really weird.
That's amazing.
Especially romance stories.
I did not know this.
I'm glad they weren't like explicit, you know? It was for a book publishing company who is like, women love romance stories. Let's get people to write short romance and then narrate it. And they hired me because I could do everything, because I could record it and master it and send it all back to them. That's why they hired me for it. So that was the most character work I've done in the last 10 years.
So you're a jack of all trades, is what you're saying.
Master of none. Yeah, that is true.
But you have to finish the phrase. But being a master of none is better than being a master of like none, right? Like
of one.
Of none, right?
I think it might be of none.
I
think that one sounds better.
I think it's of none.
Jack of all trades, master of none. Better than being a master of one?
A master of one. Yeah, I think it's a master of one.
Cool.
This is a complete sidebar, but every time people use idioms, I'm like, you gotta complete the idiom.
The whole thing.
Like, blood is thicker than water,
right?
But thinner than the water of the covenant. Something like religious,
right? Like if you only focus on the first half, it actually sounds worse than it needs to. It improves in the latter half, right? Or they're like, a bad apple like spoils the bunch. Yes, correct. That's why you got to toss it out. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, just bad apples. No, it spoils the bunch, guys. Anyway.
Yeah.
So get those cops out of the force is what that
Do you know what?
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Keep lying. That's the full one. Don't you know that? Liar, liar, pants on fire. But that's why you keep lying.
Right.
I also wanted to give some laurels to Andy because, your performance in the podcast too was amazing. Like the game, like truly Emmett was heart of the story, and it's really hard to play those characters, but you really brought a great authenticity to Emmett that just immediately they were very lovable. So
thank you.
One of my favorite parts in the whole series is Emmett asking the question right before you guys unweave Cade Collis. Andy was like, why did he betray his mom? And that is like the most key, like probably one of the most key pieces of lore that I had like just sort of locked away because there was no reason or way to explain what had happened there. And the fact that like Andy like keyed in on that and asked, I was like, thank God. And it was so fitting to the character, but like interesting too, because like when Andy pitched Emmett originally, it was Goblin. It was Riz Gukak, essentially.
Basically, pretty much. That was the whole reason I was into D&D at all, was I was super into Fantasy High.
But it was like investigator plus kid plus goblin. And I was like, sorry, humans only. But like, still, I felt like the investigator stuff was still happening, but you like keyed it into the emotional heart of it really well.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I had the that's why like the hat and like the coat. I wanted to look like a detective or some shit like that.
That makes sense. I love
That's so
that.
cute.
It is cute. And let's talk about Annette's character choices.
Oh my gosh. Maybe we should talk about them.
Just kept making them. And
how are those therapy sessions treating everyone? Hold on.
I understand why Emmett didn't want to become corrupted. I felt like Anaya was just such a cheerful character the whole way through. And so I could see her like not like really being pulled to that, but like definitely having Ofelia go in that direction. I was like, yes, this is great. Because we wanted to see that like going into wickedness a little bit.
Right. And I remember you had brought up that idea of wickedness, right? And so like it was a very interesting mental gymnastics of like, where is this character arc going, and where is Ophelia's thoughts on this. But I'm glad that those choices stood out to people, because a lot of times I actually find that making those sort of choices are very difficult. So I think that was one of my goals. So I'm glad that that played through. It was very fun just to kind of teeter to one side for a little bit, and then totter to the other.
That's the thing about the witch class that I found really interesting, was that like they said pretty clearly so to be clear for the audience, we were playing the OG 2023 version that they released. They spent a number of months asking people to playtest it and then like adapted it based on feedback and released another version of it, which I haven't even seen at this point. But what they said in the OG version is that you can't start as a wicked witch. You start in one of the other covens and you can become wicked. And I thought that was really interesting, because you have different subclass features in different classes where it's like, yeah, you can be a I don't know, I don't really play D&D that much, like cleric who's like focused on death or whatever. But that means that you have that they're like clear that you can start that way if you want to. And with this one being like, no, it's about the choices you make, I'm like, all right, cool. I did mechanize it a little bit more than was written into that version of the class, like having corruption points and also just trying to find ways to like let you get spell slots back, because we were playing an all spellcaster game, so it was a little bit squishier. I had to be less brutal, I feel like, than I could have been.
Oh,
absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, I don't know, I've played D&D a few times, and even if playing like some form of like spell casting class, there is a way in which just by virtue of the fact that you can get different robes to increase your armor class, or different spells to increase your armor class, right? Like we didn't have any of those as a witch class, because it felt like rhetorically through the mechanics, a witch isn't necessarily meant to fight, even if you're in the Coven of the Claw.
Yeah.
Right. And so like when you get into these fights, right, and you start to lose your HP, you don't have a lot of HP. And this was a moment where I was like, I could feel mechanically, I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't really want to be like, I'm Coven of the Claw, but like actually,
and you were the tank.
Yeah, and I'm the tank, but I'm like, actually, I fear we need to de-escalate the situation, because I fear I don't actually have this if this doesn't work itself out. Like,
yeah, that's the thing, is it's not Hasbro's class, it's Worlds Beyond Numbers class. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting that Erika Ishii brought up when they were designing it, and they've talked about it in their fireside chats, is why would a witch leave and join an adventuring party?
Yes, I remember that episode.
Like most witches are place-based. They're tending to an area, maybe a village. So why would they pack up and go? And so part of the fun for me here was interweaving the fact that we're doing a playtest with the story itself. So like, because I was like, I want to jump you up levels so that we can get your class features available to you. It's like, okay, well, story-wise, why would that be happening? And it's because you guys are, completing the MacGuffin quest and going and healing the shrines at the various locations, so you get big power-ups. But yeah, that was sort of like meant to kind of counterbalance the fact that I was like, I do not care about like items and armor and all that sort of thing. It's like I'm more interested in it's weird to be doing a class where you're like, yeah, we are doing a playtest, but I like kind of more interested in the story that we're telling. So I'm going to focus on that a little bit more. But also I wanted to make a world where killing people isn't cool and like mundane and just a thing that people do all the time. I wanted it to matter that Ofelia was like, I want to just fucking murk this guy 100%. I was like, okay, I want that to be consequential.
Well, it was necessary.
Right.
It was necessary, first off.
Yeah. I think it's important to have had a more grounded setting so that you could show off the more magical class that is the entire point of the podcast. So I think that's a really important aspect of it.
What's interesting about that was it was mostly just me being frustrated with the Wizards of the Coast world that they have for D&D, where it's like 500 different races. You can be a cat person, you can be a bird person, you can be an elephant person. And like, there's all these different realms and they're sort of all based on a certain mythology you're kind of familiar with, but not completely. So you can like kind of make it as weird as you want, but like all these different planes of existence. And I'm like, I can see where I would need that, but like, I'm really more interested in the world the characters are in and why it's unusual for you to even be witches in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story that you created did itself really well too, I think, as you talked about the mechanics of the witches, right? Because as you said, it was a hostile environment. And I think that's why this podcast really was almost like a love letter and an exploration of the witch play class. Or the witch class, yes.
I was wondering if you guys had any questions from the story that never got asked when we recorded it in July of 2024 that you wanted me to go and clarify. I figured out what happened to Igern after the whole thing ended.
Oh, yeah? Please.
Do tell.
Well, so you guys broke her power when you brought all those witches back. You like removed her power. And when I was doing research for this, I was reading about magical women and witches all over different cultures. And I really liked, from Japanese mythology, the Yamamba. So she's like a mountain witch. And the story behind her is that like when a woman would leave her village and go pursue a life that was like outside of like the kind of patriarchal norms, like rather than being like a mother and a wife, she went to be a courtesan or an artist of some sort. When she aged out of that, she'd come back to her village and be rejected because she was a non-traditional woman. And so she'd go off and become the mountain and become a Yamamba and either eat travelers or ease their burdens. And I was like, that's my retirement plan. So what I think happened with Igern is that because she was rejected and lost her powers, she went off to try to find them again, and she became a Yamamba. And she like guards the, you know how that river splits around Tuvold, how it's like the tip of a spear and the river goes around it. So she went to the pass where that river enters into Aelia, and she like guards it now, and she's like a mythical creature known as the Broken Heart.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
That's cool. So when are we getting back in the world?
Well, we did. For Broken Sky, we got a little bit of that.
I mean, yeah, but like, is she a problem now?
I mean, that's a good question. I really would like to play Captain Song, honestly. I would like someone else to DM. I would like to play Captain Song as a multi-class. What would she be? She'd probably be like a witch ranger or something like that.
Ooh.
I definitely had her as a full NPC stats, no special abilities. Because I was like, no, you have to go fight in the church alone. She's not going to help you.
And we're like, darn. We don't get the hot pirate mommy. That's fine.
I know.
I think if we could get somebody else to DM, it would be really fun. Because like, this is something I cut out of the finale. But we talked about how it was like 20-something years later when you guys went back and got Naya. And then Ash, you were like, did I age? And I said, no.
Yes.
Not a bit. You're still 28 years old. They're both older than you now.
I'm 32.
Yeah.
Yo.
And so I would love to play a game where it's the four of us on Captain Song's boat exploring up and down the coast. I just need somebody else to be the dungeon master for that.
I mean,
Right now I'm drawing Emmett older.
Oh,
I want to see a picture of Emmett
Hold
older.
it to the screen. Oh, yes.
Oh.
So dapper.
Dapper.
I
Yes,
know, I love the
exactly the
longer
word I was
hair.
thinking. I feel like Emmett would be in a high-collared, like, button-up shirt type.
Yes.
Yeah, honey pea.
Thank you. I might digitize it too, just for fun. Maybe I'll try everybody.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
I've improved. Like, it could be like the photo for this episode.
We talked about potentially having Andy do an animatic of the dream sequence from the first episode as well. So
Oh my
we'll just have to
God.
sit together and storyboard it.
That would be so cool.
Y'all live like
Yes.
5 minutes away from each other, so you should just do it.
Yeah.
Andy, just walk over to Sarah's place right now. Just like
That's what I keep saying.
I could. I could just leave and then ruin the episode. And then pop up and be on the same track as Sarah's audio.
There is something I wanted to address because it bothered me. But I have addressed it with Ash privately, I think, but I do want to say it on the show where we're wrapping up. So my whole thing, the whole like political praxis of mine that is like behind the story is how I'm like, okay, so when you have a society that's built around men trying to control and suppress and own women's power, then the thing to do is to focus on women of color. Like that's the counteraction to that is you need to focus on the stories of women of color. And it bothered me that the Black woman stayed behind to clean up the mess that the church made. Like just on a personal political level.
But is that not what we do? We handle business.
You do handle
business.
That's right. You weave the whole thing together. But I also was just like, that's not fair. That wasn't fair to Naya.
That's fair.
She shouldn't have to do that.
But guess who didn't age?
That's right.
I don't think you would have either way.
That's true. And that's when Black don't crack. That's right. The moral of the story.
That Black women are powerful. Yeah,
I will see my way out.
I know you said at the time when we talked about it, Ash, you were like, yeah, but you needed someone to do it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I could also kind of get a sense, like games of this nature are a dance, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you lean one way, then I can kind of recognize like, oh, I know what's about to happen here. And so I think and then also having to stay in character and not metagame it, it's like, oh, because Naya can recognize this and because Naya is so excited about magic because she was not a magic user, but she lived with a number of magic users. It's a sacred art to her and her people. Her dad is like, top tier, number one with the god of death, like number one fan, right? So it does feel natural and within her character to want to do this for the sake of her family and friends, while also at the same time still modeling certain systems that exist within the world that we live in.
Yep.
And I think even though like it is an uncomfortable truth, I think what's great about that scene is that hopefully, listeners can ponder that same thing.
Yep.
Right? Like, what does it mean for this to have happened? Not only, and what does it mean for it to also exist within the real world? And what might we do to maybe think a little differently about how one could form community, right? If someone is going to make said sacrifice, mayhaps in that moment, we all come together and say, actually, let's try and do something different.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it shouldn't have to be this person again.
But I think for Naya, it makes a lot of sense, right? From a character perspective, in a world that does not have racism in that way, right? That for Naya, it makes a lot of sense. But when we do juxtapose it with our real world, now we have a kind of other weird representation of certain systems and bodies. And, I'm just like, everyone put on your professorial hat, do a close reading, talk about it. Hey,
That's something I was thinking about while I was making it too, because the Worlds Beyond Number people have been very clear that they're not trying to recreate the kind of social structures that exist in our world in their game. And I'm like, I totally understand that. I understand why you'd want to play outside of that. When I was making this game, because I was taking cues from our world, like I was looking at stories from around our world, I'm like, okay, for me, this is a very familiar story of, you know, like what happens when men are afraid of the power that women wield. And so that kind of already was like, that kind of real world aspect of it already was built into it, which is kind of why I did try to ground it more in realism, and why there weren't like naturally monsters, but the monsters came from the use of magic and like the fact of corruption. So that's why I was like, I tried to be clear. Igern's a white woman. Liev is a black man. Like I'm like not gonna like dance around and use like food words to describe people's skin tone or anything like that. And so some of the dynamics of it do kind of naturally come in. So I was thinking about that, and you're right. But that is what like Black women do, and I feel like the point of it is that like we need to recognize that the choice that Naya made was to weave back together all of creation, and that's a thing worth honoring. And that's kind of what is happening in the real world too, except we don't honor it, and I would love to shift that a little bit personally.
I think it's also, it works really well narratively, the fact that this black character Lanaya is the one taking her own agency. And you know how it's like the church was, they had like a monopoly on all the magic stuff going on, in at least in the main civilization part of
mainstream society,
the mainstream society. And so I think it is very powerful to have, well, I guess it's not like it was your choice, but you know, having Ashlyn choosing to have Naya be the one who stays behind and do all this is very it just works out really well, I think.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really lovely choice, and I was like, oh well, then you have to go rescue her. That's how we're gonna end this game.
Right. And I think that's the other thing about it, right? I think if it ended there, then I think it would continue to exist within this, maybe I won't say problematic space, but this uncomfortable space of this black woman is now kind of responsible for the world, but she was able to return, right? Not necessarily within the same time that she left, right? But she was able to come back, to be part of her community, to be with her friends, to be with her family, right? It wasn't the ultimate sacrifice of let's say death, and she becomes a martyr, right? It becomes a temporary stopgap for a long-term problem that then her friends and society was, what I would like to assume, we're doing other things in a realm in which she could not actually be in anymore, right? And so in some other kind of way, the game then also shows what radical community actually looks like, right? Where sometimes across distance and quite frankly across time, right? Because everyone lost 20 years in which nothing happens to Naya, right? But she also lost 20 years. But that means then that sometimes if you are wanting to make change within a system, sometimes people are going to have to make a sacrifice over here. And then the rest of the community has to handle business someplace else. Right. And it works really nicely if we, again, do a little close reading. Someone write me a 10-page paper, double spaced, due on my desk Monday.
And then teacher mode kicks back in for
it's too much.
That is a great point, that we, as you said, don't leave it in this sort of martyr space, as you said, for Naya. But I mean that's the power, right? The vessel of these sort of quote unquote fictional stories that are even still grounded in realism is to say, like, that's the hope, is like, this is the ideal picture, right? Is that if in this real world, right, a black woman is sacrificing her time, we're not leaving her to that be her final moment, right? But we're actually coming together to her and lifting her up, but also supporting each other as well through that. So yeah, I think that was a really,
and like
cool.
giving her a chance to rest too. You know,
exactly.
Instead of having to carry it all herself.
Yeah.
And I did also, what I told you before we started when we were in pre-production is to consider your character first from the perspective of having NPC stats. And then all of a sudden you're level 6 witches. And so I started you in a world that was already shaped the way it had been shaped. And those were the structures that already existed and that you were working in. And so the whole point of this story was to like sort of like put you on the back foot with the power that you had. I mean, like in a strategic sense, it made sense because it's like you're playing a class that nobody's really played publicly before and you're figuring it out just as much as I am figuring out how to DM. So there's a feeling of like overwhelm that you should have that kind of goes with like the way your characters are developing. And like I was kind of relying on that the whole way through, is like you have to just keep adjusting to all of a sudden being more and more able to move in the world in a way that you weren't before, to the point that I actually wanted to make sure to point this out while we were recording this. None of you realized that if you in the BBEG fight, actually maybe I'm wrong, you might have realized this and decided to like be good sports, but in the fight with Tyos, if you had just waited until the end of his first turn and nobody had shifted back into the material realm, you could have immediately unwoven him.
What?
Really? Oh.
How so? Wait,
because you had
pause.
Because I gave you weave unweave.
Yes.
That was one of your feats as a legendary creature. It required all 3 of you to be present on the web, but you could just use all 3 of your legendary actions at the end of his turn, and you could have just immediately unwoven him. You just had to wait until the end of his turn to use that legendary action, but you were all there. And the first thing you did was have Ofelia shift back to the material plane, so you wouldn't have been able to do it. But I was relying on the fact that this was overwhelming.
Right, because wasn't there other things happening in the other material world?
Yes, absolutely. But you could have gotten to that at the next round.
That's true. That would only, yes. So this is okay. This is like one of those risky moves where we could have waited to the end of his turn, absolutely. But we also have no idea the types of chaos that he would actually do within his turn. So it was one of those moments where it's like, I think for me, like thinking mechanically, this is me being a gamer about it. I'm like, oh wow, we've become legendary creatures. Now we're fighting some legendary godlike creature. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is no longer some rando battle between like shadow wolves or something like that, where it's like, okay, let's see what the wolf is gonna do. Do we have time to see what Tyos is gonna do? Do we want to risk that? Oh, well,
yeah.
Shift back. So, but that's neat to know.
Yeah. The Weaver's super OP, but she can only do it from the web. So right. Like you have to be the Weaver in order to, like, that was sort of the fact that like you couldn't use her in any other circumstance besides fighting some other monster on the web. By the way, Tyos was all he was a reskin Death Tyrant Beholder. That's it.
That's
I was like, I'm not making my own monster.
That's hilarious.
So like hard creature to fight. And like, because it was good that I didn't have any other goons on the web with you, but the goons were all in a different plane of existence, like messing with your actual bodies. But yeah, you absolutely had the ability to just wait until one turn ended and you could have gone boop and he'd be done. But I was like, I bet they won't.
No. Question.
Yeah.
If we died in the real world, would we have died in the material plane?
In the ether where you were as the Weaver?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Right.
So does the Weaver still have HP? It depends, you know?
Right. And then we're also kind of squishy.
Because Emmett did die, but not in the real world.
That's true.
I was like, Emmett's still part of the web. That was the result I came up with when that happened, because I thought that move, doing etherealness and bringing yourself to the web, I thought was a great move.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, my thought on it was still part of the web, like dissipating into it basically, and like your immediate move was to bring Emmett back right away. So like that was like the next turn. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't happen, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I bet you could do some fun things in a follow-up season with like knowing that the Weaver is
Yes.
there as a possibility.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
like, how do you even
absolutely.
access that anymore? And why would you want to? And would it be the same Weaver if you came back a different time? You know, because like Naya maintained it being the same Weaver it was through her 20 years as that same creature. But would it be embodied some other way once Naya's come back to the material plane?
That's so
Is the
cool.
Weaver its own entity? Like,
Right. Well, I mean, now this is like one of those world building meta questions of,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, because there's a couple ways that this could go down, right? So because the Weaver existed in
Mm-hmm.
its kind of form because we embodied the Weaver, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
this moment where because we became the consciousness of the Weaver, that, you know, it's that I think therefore I am. We are the Weaver because we think we are the Weaver. So does the Weaver exist on its own now that we no longer inhabit its body, right? It doesn't exist in its own material plane, continuing to do its work. Does it have consciousness? Does it not have consciousness?
I think we did even touch on this while we were playing. And the answer is basically no, the Weaver doesn't exist if the three of you don't exist as the Weaver. Because what happened was when the church combined the hierarch's flesh body with Tyos the god and created the Tyos that you fought on the web, the ether, the strands, they all responded to that because that's like a deep imbalance to have sent something of flesh into that plane. But it's a delayed response, and that is what activated your powers. Like it was the web calling to itself and opening up this like channel into this craft, into this kind of magic, to the three people who were best suited to help rebalance what had happened. And you that's what you were doing as you were going to the shrines and reconnecting the shrine of change, the shrine of chaos back to the earth. You were strengthening the web, and that's why you got more powers every time you did that. And so the third time, when what they straight up did was send you to the ether using using teleportation and gate. They opened the gate and sent you through it. And because they did sort of the same thing that they did to the hierarch and transport your physical bodies to the ether, that is what created the Weaver as a monster, like as a legendary creature with a body. So if you all like once Naya comes back, we're to try to figure out a way to go back there. The Weaver doesn't exist anymore because it relies on having at least one of the three of you there. And now you're all back. But Tyos is gone too, so that's fine. But if you were to try to find a way back, that's like kind of an interesting question of like, why would you, and would that throw things off balance again? And would you be the same Weaver if you went back there?
Right. It also begs the question of what are gods in the
Yeah.
world, right?
I had thoughts about. I'm just so excited. I love this stuff so much. The idea now it makes me also think about the idea of like fate in the sense of like, so the web is, it's just it is everything. It's the universe basically, and so I'm wondering, Sarah, is it like the web calling out to whatever is going to be best, whatever thing or person or animal or whatever force that exists in the material plane that is best suited to solving this imbalance? Is that like a path of least resistance sort of deal where it's like, do you know what I mean, where it's like water will always go down the path of least resistance?
Kind of, yeah. It's like they pushed the pendulum in a particular direction, and what this was the pendulum swinging back the other way.
It's the gravity part. It's the opposing force that automatically responds to. It's just trying to rebalance itself. There's
Exactly,
that describing it that way helps me think about it in less of a conscious creature sort of way, and it does. I love this stuff of like what are gods, because I remember I was re-listening to the podcast and stuff, and just like how gods are created from people's perception. I've always just loved that concept because I think it's a fun thought experiment. It's like, oh, people, it's like a feedback loop of like, oh, we believe in a god, but because we believe in it, the god exists, and the cycle repeats. Yeah. And I was wondering about like in Naya's time in the web space as the Weaver, what was told like what was the narrative outside of that? What were people talking about? What did Emmett and Ofelia like? I mean, I know we talked about it in the last episode. I didn't get a chance to listen to that one again. And so I'm a little foggy. I know it was like the lunar, the celestial alignment stuff that happened.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that. I remember
that.
that.
How to get back. You guys in the last episode, you were basically like I was just like, how are you guys doing emotionally? Which I realized as I edited the whole series was like my main question. For you guys, like, what's the emotional state you're currently in as a character? Just tell me about that. It was like a big therapy session. You were like, the big deal for Emmett is that she doesn't have to steal anymore. She can go places. She can like, you know, have a life where she can like indulge herself in things, and she's just very happy now. And for Ofelia, it was like still tending to your duty of like helping to integrate the new witches and like you set up a tea shop with Liev and stuff like that. But it was like very much like we're just sort of living our lives in this new milieu that we're in. And fortunately, we're in a relatively protected space because you were in Ayadir for the most part. So there was this like, we kept it pretty vague. And I think the story of what was going on for all of you is really interesting. And actually, I'm really glad that when we did, I don't know if you guys listened to the scenes from Broken Sky, but so Emmett's scene was when she got sucked down the whirlpool before she popped back out. That's where her scene took place. Ophelia's was many years later, coming back to the cave where she killed that guy. And for Naya, it was on the web as the Weaver. So we like even got to talk about that a little bit with Naya, like what's going on with her. Does she even remember who she is at this point? Like, what does she remember about the world? And as she's become sort of this godlike creature that's just doing this labor of repairing existence, essentially, where is she at? And I really loved your scene that we did for Broken Sky, Ash, because it was like both Annette and Andy were like they had points where they were like calling out to you, like they were like searching for Naya, but like you had the same thing, like you were like searching for them, and it was just really nice to see that we like created this little sort of multiverse kind of setting going on for that game, but it was still the three characters were all like so oriented towards each other. I really loved that.
My friends.
Friends.
You've done it again, Sarah.
I know.
Congratulations.
Fuck
God
yeah.
damn it, Sarah.
God.
A moment of silence for Annette Lee.
Annette, put your question in the chat.
So true, Annette. So true. I really, I really am feeling.
Dude, that's such a good point. Oh, no! She's gone.
Oh. No, we'll wait. We're going to stay recording because when she jumps back in, it'll just give me a second recording under her name. And
oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I was like, Annette, no.
There's a point, Ash, where if I'm like jumping back to the conversation about sort of like some of the real world dynamics that were in play at this, and you were like, Liev does not read like a black man to me. And
I wonder why.
That could be my own problem. I was like, that could be my own problem. I was like, he was black.
So,
what?
For me, I was thinking about that, and I was like, okay, so here's the problem: is that like I have absolutely been in circumstances where a black man who is supposed to be looking after younger women of color, like kind of just fucked off to go save a white woman in crisis, and I'm like, I'm actually quite familiar with that dynamic.
Absolutely. I mean, because again, at the end of the day, he's a man.
Yeah.
Like. So I'm just like, okay, well, he's doing the dude thing. But I'm like, why? Where do you hail from, sir?
That is a political thing that I was like thinking about while we were doing that, where I was like, I think that white women and black men, what we ought to be doing is combining our powers, you know, like I've got whiteness and they've got maleness. And it's like, why don't we use those together to like
create a white man?
Well, to support black women, like to support and protect black women and to like raise them up, like instead of, but what we're always doing is butting heads. And it's like, this is stupid. This is a stupid thing to do. And I was like, I am going to play that dynamic out, but it's going to be off screen. It's going to be, that did happen with the two of them, but that's not the important part of the story.
Totally. It's that proximity to whiteness and that proximity to patriarchy that
I just love that it's the ingredients for the different things. You just got to distill the aspects of these two types of people.
And also we don't need to see them fighting with each other because it's like that's boring and we see that in real life anyway. So we're just going to see the result of it, which was Liev being tongue-tied and having those black flowers fall out of his mouth, and that's why he was so pissed at Igern during the last fight. So pissed that Emmett was the one who was like, jumping in and standing up. But Annette's back, and Annette had a question.
Let's go, Queen.
I'm not gonna speak anymore. I just feel like the Wi-Fi's telling me not to speak.
No, but this is an interview. It's a wrap
No,
up.
You must.
Don't let this internet silence you, okay? The internet technology keeps silencing women of color.
Don't let them
gotta stop.
2026.
What was your question, Annette?
I was gonna ask because I didn't get to ever, I think, read the scene with Ash and Naya being up. Not Ash, Naya being on the web, but was Naya ever able to speak with Emmett and Ofelia, because technically she was on like the plane of existence and being connected to everyone?
I did say that your connection to her shut off when you got back. Like you didn't have the telepathic bond anymore. Because that was, technically speaking, that was telepathic bond that was keeping you guys linked up in the shared consciousness. And when gate closed, that turned off.
But like in just general, because Naya was technically on the web of existence, so even without telepathy, could she still technically reach down to Ofelia and Emmett?
I feel like you guys must have gotten weird dreams or something.
Yeah, I would love to believe. That's what the thing that I would love to believe, right? Like what happens when you go into your deep unconscious mind, right, where you can't really understand it. I feel like whatever Naya's unconscious was became the Weaver, and so then it becomes this thing where it's like, well, like because I'm now existing in a different kind of plane, like all of our kind of social constructs don't even make that much sense anymore, right? So then it's like, how do I communicate to you from a distance if I can't like I'm not going to try and like unweave your body or something like that, but like I could maybe make something else fall in front of you. Like I'm haunting you, but I'm trying to communicate in a way that only like a spider who is in an incorporeal place can like be like, hey girl,
Right.
hey,
Bing!
right? Like,
What's up?
right?
I like to imagine that it was through like nature, maybe, that you could manipulate like an apple dropping somewhere randomly or something like that, and I'd be like, oh, that's
that's an interesting question too, because this gets back to the question of like what are gods, and like in my theory for this game I had defined that like because like the strands themselves are these driving forces, and the bigger the more of a support structure it is to the web, the more forces there are kind of like bundled into it almost. And so it gets a little conceptual, but gods themselves are like you are pulling like the way that gods are gods of domains in D&D. The way I conceived of it was it's not that the domains belong to the gods, it's that the gods belong to the domains. And so they are just bundles of these domains together, and the more faith there is behind a god, the more powerful it is, because you're adding then in like the thoughts and the will of people, and people are the exact same kind of bundles as well, because we're all just this sort of like makeup of different driving forces. So Naya was in a really interesting place because literally everything else around her is just like the concepts that make up existence, like the kind of like patterns that we agree upon that are what make up realities. But there's not like a direct line of communication on any part of that where it's like she can send you a message. Like if she like plucks this strand, she can like ping you guys telepathically or anything like that. So I feel like you guys dreamed of giant spiders, really friendly.
I feel like it would be difficult to discern between whether it was our own subconscious. It was like, oh, I just experienced something super traumatic that involved a spider, or if it was Naya like subconsciously communicating. I think that's funny.
And also thinking about levels of experience, right? Like after 20 years, she's probably now really good at weaving certain concepts and weaving at like, let's say, particular enough details such that then she could probably fine tune a message. But before that, and you're just kind of like making high level fixes, like being able to like mess around with people's dreams is at like this higher level than like, oh, I need fine-tuned, detailed like stitching to get a message and encode a T, an H, an E, you know.
You're just like
Blah,
the
blah,
concept of, hey guys, I love you, and like the concept of like, how you guys doing? Just like rolling them
boom.
together.
Right. And then it appears in your brain as like, oh, it's a heart. It's beating. Oh no, it explodes. There are spiders? What? No, guys, it's me. It's me.
My heart is full of
But
spiders.
I forgot what I look like. I just forgot what I look like.
That's the other thing is Naya kind of lost her sense of self in that time that she was up there.
Oh no.
Like that was something I was like pretty clear about, was like, yeah, you have lost your connection to humanity because you are in a weird null space that is outside of all existence. Yeah.
You're basically a game developer.
Me giving people existential crises because I'm like, yeah, we just like concepts, right? Like we're all like, whatever.
Just whatever happens
Black holes,
to like
we should think about
personally like interest Naya at any given moment is just like what everybody starts dreaming about in the whole world all at the same time.
It's like Naya was in developer mode debugging everything just to make sure everything was on
just gotta run a unit test, guys. Oh no, that's going poorly.
Alpha 1.0.
You know what I realized when I was after I finished up the sound design and published, I was like sitting here thinking about this and I'm like, so the Church of Tyos is the tech companies. That's what they are. And like Tyos is like AI essentially.
Oh god.
You can connect it to any
we are open source.
Yeah, you guys are like open source. Like you guys are the stuff that they've been like developing in Singapore, where it like actually doesn't actually take any energy up, and it's a lot smarter than than the models we're developing here.
We're on itch.io making fan games.
Right. It's like, look at these two dudes. They're kissing each other now. Like, isn't that neat? Like, what if we actually did that? What if we? Oh no! Stop pouring out gallons of water. Like, wait.
See, this is that's the answer to everything. Is it's two guys making games about two guys kissing each other instead of AI that takes over all of our jobs.
Absolutely.
Well, so we're running up on an hour, and I guess I was like, when I was thinking about the concept for this recording, I'm like, in other cases where I've heard people do it, they were like had fan submitted questions, and unfortunately, we're not there yet. Like we're not to the point where I can get fan submitted questions. So I'm like, do you guys have any questions? Is there anything that went on a year and a half ago when we ran this that you're like, wait, clarify this for me, that I can answer before we close the chapter on this and move on to the next couple of things that are planned?
I'm curious about all of these people. So a ton of new witches were created after the final little sacrifice, not little, big sacrifice that Naya made. And Ofelia and Emmett went on to do their whole thing, reintroduce these witches to every witch thing, because we're kind of that part of that legacy now, or with the beginning of the new generation. And so I'm curious, it wasn't just like the people, the priests and stuff directly in the Church of Tyos that were hyper religious. They obviously spread everywhere. That's so like there's so many religious people, ultra religious people who were probably oppressed because of it, and people who probably benefited a lot from it still. And so I'm curious, and a lot of those people are probably witches now. So I'm just curious what you think about that, Sarah. Like, have you thought much about like what the consequences of that might be?
Ooh.
Honestly, what I think about is TikTok witches.
I'm going to take your bad vibes.
Right, yes. And like how they're like, let me build a brand for myself being a witch on TikTok, and that's going to be monetizable. And I'm like, yo, I feel like you might not be that actually plugged into witchcraft if that is how you're doing it, because you're just kind of doing witch capitalism. And I feel like there's like probably a lot of that. I feel like, because like I said, Ophelia's dad got witch powers. He's pretty embedded in the system. I don't know necessarily what choices he might make with that, especially if, there was a cleansing and all the witches disappeared. So there isn't like that much infrastructure by way of like integrating people into these new powers. And so everybody is going to have to make of them what they will. And there's this entrenched system that's already there. They've lost this thing that they created that was like an amalgamation of their god, but like an overreach for power. And they lost the head of the church and the head of, and the guy who was like the hierarch of the entire continent. So there's like this decapitation that happened, but there's like a giant political vacuum. And Ofelia and Emmett are, like I said, staying in a fairly sheltered area. And this continent too is like pretty closed off because it's ringed by mountains. There's only access through rivers and otherwise the coast, but the coast is even protected by the way Pennant's Point curves around it. So it's like isolated. So I'm actually like, I'm kind of interested in what the broader world outside of just Aelia looks like, especially because, you know, it wasn't just Aelia where new witches were created. It was everywhere. And there might be other places like on the other side of the world that never did a cleansing that like honored this tradition. And so what does that mean for them? Maybe these people know more about witchcraft than people in Aelia do. And so how does that interact? So I think there's like a lot of interesting lore that could be developed. I just I'm gonna save that. That's just gonna stay in the tank and wait till later.
Or it becomes one of Captain Song's adventure.
You know, gotta get everybody on a boat.
I'm on a boat and it's going fast, and I'm got my nautical theme pashmina Afghan. I'm sorry.
I'm a witch and okay, well. That's it. I think that's good. Thank you guys again. I'm glad we did a little reunion. And I'm going to publish this episode in a week. I'm saying some concluding words here that I will use in the in the recording that gets published. Let's see. So, maybe you guys are interested in knowing. So I have 720 something total downloads of everything that's been published. 500 something unique listeners.
Whoa.
Yes. So like it's really interesting because I got Spotify Creators Wrapped at the end of the year. They were like, this is how your podcast performed. And I got some interesting awards. I got Instant Hit Show. It was more listened to than 84% of shows in their debut season, which is cool.
Dang.
It got most engaged. It got more shared than 94% of other shows. The interesting thing is when you're looking at numbers that's like, technically speaking, the download numbers are pretty small. Like the fact that I haven't cracked 1,000 is like sort of, an issue. But what that means though, is that the number of people it takes to actually get those awards, there's a high proportion of them. So that means that there are yes, it's more shared than 94% of other shows. What that means to me is that there's a lot of garbage shows that are like made by AI that are on the platform, and that's what it's being compared against. But it also means, because it's in the top 6%, that also means that the people who are listening are sharing it.
Right.
Like there's not as many of them, but they are doing it. They're being active about it. So like what I'm seeing here is that we actually have some like pretty engaged listeners. I also got most listened to, like people listen to Oops All Witches episodes longer than 78% of other shows. So, and that's a big deal with episodes that are like an hour long. That's a lot. So we got like a small but mighty and like growing audience. So we just got this nice and wrapped up and sitting there as a complete series for people to listen to. And then I'm going to just ask you guys to come on and do other actual plays and stuff.
I forgot something I like before we started this I wanted to talk about. Is just that I've been doing drama and I went to college in between when we recorded Oops All Witches and now. So I feel like a completely different person, and I just wanted to comment on the fact that it's not like I did a bad job or anything during Oops All Witches, but I could do so much better now. And I want to do season 2 so bad. God, I'm so much more confident is the thing. I'm so much more like, okay, okay, awesome. I could be so... Can you hear it in the way I'm speaking right now?
Yeah, I can, actually. We gotta tag Andy in again. We gotta do it. How do
yes!
Find us a DM.
when this takes off and becomes like extraordinarily popular, you know, I would love to find a DM who'd be willing to play a game where Andy's playing 34-year-old Emmett, Annette's playing like 46-year-old Ofelia. And we still at 28-year-old Naya, and like songs like in her 60s.
Right. But mentally I'm ancient because I'm like your issues, they're not real. Like what?
Your character in that game would be so interesting because she spent like 2 decades, but also like eons kind of as like just the maker of all things. So what's it like to come back down?
I'll be like, oh wow, you know what?
It's like cosmic horror.
Right. That's what it is. I'm like, oh no, now I'm trapped
Mundane
here.
horror.
Is your brain too little for your experience at this point?
I'm like, I meet my dad again and he's talking about the god of death, and I'm like, he doesn't exist. What are you talking about?
What if through your belief you could create your own god as like your own little, like your pet?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely you could. Actually, that would be really interesting.
gosh.
Really. What if season 2 is us creating a god?
It's actually just Neopets. That's what I heard. I'm sorry.
Neopets.
It's
Neo
just
gods.
Neopets.
Neo gods.
Neo gods.
Dude.
Tamagotchis.
Yeah.
Tamagotchis.
Make sure to feed your god every day.
Better clean up after it when it poops. All right. Well, the concluding words. Thanks for. What I want to do is stop recording, and like we can keep talking, but I want to press stop on the recording button.
Just do it. Just press stop. Just
okay. Podcast over.